Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Rishika Barua. The race to Raisina Hill is going to be our top focus story. Fresh resignations in the Union Cabinet and new portfolios being allocated. All that and more coming up in just a bit. First up, the headlines. Two union ministers hand in resignations. Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi and RCP Singh of the JDU have resigned from the cabinet. Additional portfolios have been allocated to Jyotiraditya Scindia and Smriti Irani. Nupur Sharma denigrated the prophet, whereas I celebrated Goddess Kali. That's what Mahua Moitra told NDTV amid the Kali Rao. The TMC, her own party, has condemned her comments. The BJP has filed an FIR. After Shiv Sena MLA split, now battle for MPs. Team Thackeray versus Team Shinde moves to the Lok Sabha. With Uddhav Thackeray now making the first move and sacking the chief whip, fearing a revolt by members of parliament. There is a worry over Sena MPs in touch with Chief Minister Shinde. The COVID-19 booster gap has been reduced in India as cases continue to rise. The COVID booster shot can now be taken after 6 months instead of 9. This as only 5% of Indian adults are vaccinated with the booster dose, a huge worry for the government. And while rains have eased in waterlogged Mumbai, however, an orange alert for Mumbai continues over the next 2 days. Clouds have cleared over the Konkan coast as well. Our top focus story, Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi and RCP Singh have resigned from the Union Cabinet just a day before the completion of their Rajya Sabha term. Prime Minister Modi praised their contributions during their ministerial tenure. President Ramnath Kovind has accepted the resignations and reassigned the Minority Affairs and Steel portfolios which were held by these two ministers. Women and Child Development Minister Smriti Irani has been given additional charge of Minority Affairs, and Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia has been given additional charge of the Ministry of Steel. Let's go right across to Himanshu, tracking all of these details. Himanshu, it's, of course, there is a lot of speculation on why these resignations have come in at this time. The speculation, of course, is that all of this has to do with the presidential election. What are you picking up?
Both leaders, senior political leaders, were not nominated by their respective parties. BJP did not decide to send Naqvi to Rajya Sabha from any of these states where elections were held recently. And RCP Singh, as we know, he fell out with Nitish Kumar, who is the JDU leader and Bihar Chief Minister. And since then, there was speculation as to whether they should continue in the cabinet because their terms are ending today. In fact, today is the last day of the tenure of both Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi and RCP Singh. And that is why when Prime Minister praised them yesterday, which was their last cabinet meeting they attended together, they sent their resignation to the Prime Minister, which was accepted by the President around 8 p.m. yesterday night. And of course, now the focus now shifts to what happens to both these leaders. Now, remember, Naqvi's name, there is a lot of speculation about a new responsibility being thought of. He could be made a governor of a state, or there are reports that he's also being considered as one of the probable candidates for the vice presidential elections. But still, the picture is still not clear. And even for RCP Singh also, there was some speculation that he might join the BJP. But as of now, there is no clarity in terms of what the BJP has thought about the future of Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, nor do we know what RCP Singh will now do next. But of course, two very key ministries now are vacant. Additional charges have been given. Smriti Irani has been given the charge of Minority Affairs Ministry, and the Steel Ministry has been given to Jyotiraditya Scindia. But of course, two key vacancies in the government, and now I think it will be very important to see, because the Parliament session is starting on 18th, the elections are on 18th, and our government, I think BJP central leadership now will have to quickly decide about what its strategy is going to be, especially for the vice president elections. But till then, there is no clarity as of now in terms of what would be the future of both Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi and RCP Singh.
All right, so it is unclear about what really is going to happen to these two union cabinet ministers who resigned just yesterday. They haven't been nominated to the Rajya Sabha. Will they be given, governor positions in states, or is the speculation around Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi being considered VP actually, going to gain more steam? Thanks very much, Himanshu, for joining us with the very latest. But staying with the big political news, there's a huge South push that is being seen in the new Rajya Sabha nominations. Legendary athlete P.T. Usha and music maestro Ilayaraja were among the prominent personalities who were nominated to the Rajya Sabha on Wednesday. Philanthropist and administrator of the Dharamshala temple, the Dharamsthala temple, I beg your pardon, Virendra Hegde, and noted screenwriter Vijendra Prasad were also among those who were nominated to the upper house. Let's go right across to Uma Sudhir joining us with the very latest on this. So, Uma, big South push seen in these nominations.
Not too much of a surprise, I would say, Rishika, considering that the National Executive Committee meeting very, very clearly said that South is going to be the area of expansion for the BJP from now on, and therefore there is going to be a big South focus. The fact that the NEC itself was conducted in Hyderabad was perhaps one indication. Yes, P.T. Usha, the Payoli Express from Kerala, then we have Vijendra Prasad, who both the Telugu states. He happens to be the father of his director Rajamouli and the writer of Bahubali, Bajrangi Bhaijaan, as well as the latest movies of Rajamouli as well. And he is someone who both the Telugu states, though he belongs to Andhra Pradesh, both the Telugu states would of course claim him. And of course Virendra Hegde from Karnataka, and Ilayaraja, someone who is loved across the South and perhaps in many parts of the world. Him also being nominated, Ilayaraja being nominated, all of that very clearly showing that the BJP has put its focus on the South. The fact that, in Telangana itself, they have hardly one legislator. In Tamil Nadu, they have hardly 4 legislators. So, except for for Karnataka, where the BJP is in strength, the other states are potential states for the BJP, and that's why the big South push one would imagine. Of course, they would also think about the different constituencies in one sense. P.T. Usha, of course, a woman from Kerala being nominated, Ilayaraja belonging to the SC community, and of course Mr. Hegde from the Jain community. So all those are of course sub points that we can point out. But yes, the big South focus very clearly indicating that the BJP is looking South now. Back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Uma, for joining us with the very latest. We're of course going to continue to keep a close watch on those developments. Like Uma is saying, no surprises there, given the fact that the BJP has made its agenda for the South abundantly clear in the last couple of weeks especially. Let's shift our focus now to, well, the other big political story that we're tracking now. There's a spiraling controversy about Mahua Mitra and her comments on Goddess Kali. Now, she said that Goddess Kali is a meat-eating, alcohol-accepting goddess. These comments that were made by the Trinamool Congress Member of Parliament, Mahua Mitra, has landed her well in a lot of trouble. She's dared the BJP on Wednesday to prove her wrong after her comments were criticized by the BJP. Her own party has distanced itself, condemned what she said, saying these are her personal views. She spoke exclusively to NDTV last evening, where she said that, essentially what Nupur Sharma did was denigrate the Prophet. What she did was celebrate Kali, and she'll continue to defend it.
I'm a Kali worshipper. I'm a devotee of Shakti, and this is the way she's been worshipped for thousands of years. I challenge the BJP anywhere in Bengal or anywhere in India to prove me wrong, to prove that anything that I've said is wrong. They filed FIRs, and in Bengal, in every PS that they filed an FIR, within 5 kilometers of that police station, there will be a Kali temple where Ma Kali will be worshipped in the manner that I have said. BJP has a government in Assam. The Kamakhya temple is a Shakti Peeth in Assam. I challenge the BJP government in Assam to put on affidavit in the Guwahati High Court that this does not happen in Kamakhya. I challenge the BJP government in Assam to legislate that this will not happen. I am a Hindu. I am a practicing Hindu. Who is anyone to tell me whose sentiment is being heard? In Nupur's case, they said, why Nupur, why not you? In Nupur's case, she was talking about somebody else's faith, targeting some between religions. In my case, it is.
You're talking about your own faith, all right.
My own. And the second point is this. She said it to denigrate the prophet. I said it to celebrate the goddess. This is how we celebrate the goddess.
Mahua Moitra, Trinamool MP, is facing the threat of several FIRs, particularly by BJP leaders for her comments on Goddess Kali. MP Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan said that Moitra's remarks hurt sentiments of Hindus.
किसी धर्म की भावनाओं को आहत नहीं होना चाहिए। अभी काली मां का अपमान किया गया है। आज आपने देखा होगा FIR मध्य प्रदेश में हो गई है। हमने कहा भाई हम नहीं छोड़ेंगे। मैया का अपमान भी सहन नहीं करेंगे।
The Bhopal Crime Branch filed a case against Mahua Moitra for deliberate and malicious acts intended to outrage religious feelings. Mahua Moitra hit back, challenging the BJP. She said she is a Kali worshipper and is not afraid of anything, and that truth does not need backup forces, which many are seeing as a dig at her own party. The Trinamool Congress was quick to distance itself from Mahua Moitra's Kali comments, saying they were her personal views.
Party does not endorse such opinion or statement, and party has condemned also.
Mahua's comments were in response to filmmaker Leena releasing a poster showing Goddess Kali smoking a cigarette. The BJP wants her arrested.
इसका खिलाफ कानूनी तरीके से कार्रवाई होना चाहिए, नहीं होगा तो शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से ध्वज लेकर महाकाली जी का तस्वीर और प्रतिमा लेकर मूर्ति लेकर एजिटेशन भी होगा.
On one occasion earlier, Mamata Banerjee had publicly pulled up Mahua Moitra during an administrative meeting. Now, soon after the outrage over her comments on Goddess Kali, the Trinamool Congress was quick to distance itself, calling the comments her personal views and saying the party strongly condemned such comments. This has now led to speculation over her future in the party. With camera person GD Shankar, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
Well, let's shift our focus now to the other big political development we're tracking. The Uddhav Thackeray faction of the Shiv Sena, reduced to a minority in the Maharashtra Assembly, has appointed a new chief whip for the Lok Sabha, fearing a revolt by party MPs. Senior party leader Sanjay Raut wrote a letter to Lok Sabha Speaker last evening and informed him that Ranjan Vichare has been appointed the new chief whip, replacing Bhavna Gali. Now, the spread of the revolt among the MPs is going to be a huge disadvantage for the Shiv Sena, which has about 19 members in the Lok Sabha and 3 members in the Rajya Sabha. Following a revolt by the Eknath Shinde faction last month, Uddhav Thackeray has already lost 40 of his 55 MLAs and subsequently also, lost power in the state. Let's go right across to Saurabh Gupta, who's been keeping a close watch on all these political developments. Saurabh, it's going to be really interesting because as far as the Shiv Sena is concerned, they've already appointed a new whip in the Lok Sabha, leaving nothing to chance. Clearly, a party that has faced a huge debacle in the assembly and, they want to play it safe in the Lok Sabha.
That's right. In fact, one of the reasons the Shiv Sena has given, and this is the Thackeray-led Shiv Sena, for the rebel of MLAs, is that several of these MLAs are facing ED investigations or enforcement-directed investigations, and the word of the Shiv Sena, or the accusation of the Shiv Sena, has been that the BJP has misused central agencies like the Enforcement Directorate to turn over MLAs to its side. That's the allegation the Shiv Sena has made. Now, the BJP has, of course, responded saying that no, the ED is simply doing its job. But many have also questioned the ED's activities in other states, or the lack of activities in other states, and the cases in opposition ruled states. So that's one part. Now, Bhavna Gali is someone who's also facing an ED case. So what the Shiv Sena, Thackeray-led Shiv Sena, believes is that yes, that case could be used to also ensure a rebellion from that quarter. So, anticipating that, the Shiv Sena has removed her as the chief whip in the Lok Sabha and appointed Ranjan Vichare, who's also from Thane, which is Eknath Shinde's stronghold, but has been with the Uddhav Thackeray camp as the chief whip in the Lok Sabha. So that is, of course, the reason for the development. Now, there is, of course, still a challenge to the Uddhav Thackeray-led government in terms of rebellion, because at this point, it's not about saving the government. The government has already fallen. But it's about saving the party, the legacy that the Thackeray's have, by virtue of Balasaheb Thackeray, the Shiv Sena patriarch. And that is key. And to say that the Shiv Sena needs to have some legislative presence where their point of view, the Thackeray camp's point of view, is what is portrayed, in the House. So that, to ensure that happens, they've, appointed Rajan Vichare in place of Bhavna Gautam.
All right. Thanks very much, Saurabh, for joining us with the very latest. We're, of course, going to continue to track all of those developments from the Lok Sabha as well. Remains to be seen if Uddhav Thackeray does manage to keep his camp together in the upper house. Well, moving on from Maharashtra, let's now shift our focus to Karnataka, where 4 people were injured in violence that was reported in Karnataka's Kerur. Arguments between groups belonging to different communities led to this violence. There were shops and pull carts of one community that were vandalized, and as the situation, of course, continues to remain under control for now, large gatherings have been banned as a precautionary measure. Let's go right across to Shrija joining us for the very latest. Shrija, what's the situation on the ground? We're given to understand that schools and colleges have also been shut as a precautionary measure.
Yes, in fact, Bagalkot police have clamped section 144. This is in the surrounding areas of Kerur town of Bagalkot district of Karnataka. This after a violent clash, a communal clash, which is confirmed by the police officers to NDTV, where two different communities, people of two different communities, they clashed, and after which a violence had taken place. Several vehicles and also shops were vandalized, and several of the pushcarts were also set on fire. So what we are getting, the information right now from the police officers, is that nearly one person has been stabbed in this particular incident, and the person has been undergoing treatment at a district hospital. However, according to the police officer, who also did not wish to be named, goes on to talk about that the clash broke out because of an argument with regard to a woman, and that is something which is yet to be confirmed. And also what we understand from the police is that 3 other people have been injured in this particular incident as well. Now, this incident took place, clashed at a bus stand right near Kerur town of Badami. This is in Bagalkot district, where we understand at least about 5 shops were vandalized, and pushcarts of fruit vendors and vegetable vendors were set on fire, and at least about 2 to 3 vehicles were set ablaze before even the police reached the spot.
Thanks, Shrija, for joining us with that update. So as a precautionary measure, prohibitory orders are in place. The situation is, of course, under control, but large gatherings have been banned today. Schools and colleges have been shut, and we will, of course, get you all the very latest from there. Welcome back. Let's get you an update now from Mumbai and Maharashtra. Well, the intensity of rain in the western coast has started to ease after 2 days of monsoon fury. Clouds have started to clear according to the weather department. However, they do predict light to moderate rains over the Konkan belt even today. Waterlogging in Mumbai is yet to drain out, especially from the low-lying areas. However, after some spells of rain this morning, we're learning that the weather is expected to clear up in Mumbai as well. However, an orange alert for heavy rain continues to persist over the course of the next 2 days.
It's rained almost 5 times the normal in Mumbai today. The city received 91 millimeters, which is 379% excess. In the suburbs, the normal rain expected was 20.7 millimeters, but it rained 193.6 millimeters, which is 835% excess. In Thane, adjoining Mumbai, a motorcyclist was killed on Tuesday on the Ghodbandar road after his bike hit a massive pothole caused by the continuous rain. 3 people were injured as part of a hill collapsed in the Chunabhatti area of Mumbai due to the continuous rain. Normal life has been disrupted for many in Sion in central Mumbai, which was waterlogged for the second day. Missed bank appointments, delayed commute to work, citizens are a hassled lot.
This is a daily feature, so every time going to office is a very tough task. Where like my office timing is 10, so I'm going right now 11:30. So this will take like more than couple of hours to reach my office.
So very bad. यहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम कितना हो रहा है, मुझे बैंक जाना, मैं आधे रास्ते से रिटर्न आ रही हूँ और मुझे किसी को पैसे ट्रांसफर करने हैं अभी इतना पानी भरा, मुझे लग रहा है मैं ही गिर जाऊँगी इसके अंदर, तो मैं रिटर्न जा रही हूँ अभी.
Every monsoon, it's the same story for residents of this area of Sion. Here, of course, right now people have to wade through knee-deep water because of waterlogging, as this is what is called a low-lying area in Mumbai, where the water accumulates before it's drained out through pumps during heavy rain. But at the Hind Mata Circle, a chronic flooding spot for years, this is nothing short of a miracle. The reason? Underground water holding tanks constructed by the BMC with pumps to drain the water quickly. Aditya Thackeray, whose party the Shiv Sena has ruled the BMC for years but has just split, with his side losing power, was quick to claim credit, calling this a first in all these decades due to the pump and underground rain holding tanks they've made.
बहुत फायदा है, अभी पानी कम भरता है, नहीं तो इतना बारिश में दुकान में पानी आ जाता था तो नुकसान बहुत होता था. अभी पानी नहीं आया दुकान और ट्रैफिक भी चालू रहता है. पानी ये पंप ज़्यादा खींचता है, इससे ट्रैफिक चालू रहती है.
In Mumbai with Sunil Singh and camera person Praveen Rohit, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
And while moving on to the other big focus, the Union Health Ministry has reduced the gap between the second COVID vaccine dose and the booster shot, or the precautionary dose as it's known here in India. You can now take your booster shot 6 months after your second dose instead of 9 months. Now, this is a decision that is coming in at a time when active cases have risen every single day for the last 44 days. There are over 1.15 lakh active cases in the country right now, which is the highest since in February, and many believe that these numbers are barely scratching the surface, given the fact that a lot of people have now resorted to home test kits and therefore official numbers aren't being reported. However, 90% of India's eligible population, which is 12 years and above, is vaccinated, but the big concern for the government continues to remain the penetration of the booster shot, which is still very low. Only 5% of eligible adults have received the COVID-19 booster. All right, with that, we're going to slip into a very short break. But coming up on the other side, SpiceJet boss speaks to NDTV defending the airline's safety in an exclusive conversation. We'll bring you the details. And as inflation continues to spike, it is pinching the Aam Aadmi's kitchen budget. I beg your pardon. The oil companies have announced yet another 50 rupee hike in the price of a 14.2 kg domestic LPG cylinder. This was domestic LPG cylinder prices that were hiked in the national capital yesterday. The third hike in domestic cooking gas price in just the last 2 months. Interestingly, the prices of commercial cylinders were actually slashed in the national capital by about 9 rupees.
50 rupees may not seem like much, but 50 rupee hike for cooking gas cylinders has added to the financial stress of this household in a low-income neighborhood of Delhi's Ekta Vihar. Situ, a housewife, lives with her husband and 2 children in a one-room flat. She says high inflation has stretched her modest kitchen budget and wants LPG prices to be cut. The new price is 1,053 per cylinder, up 26% in 1 year.
सब्जियाँ इतनी महंगी हो गई है, हर बात में महंगाई है, बहुत महंगाई है। बहुत महंगाई हो गई। बहुत महंगाई हो गई सर, हर चीज़ में। बच्चों को खिलाएंगे, हम खाएंगे, घर का खर्चा करें, क्या करें सर? मुश्किल हो रहा है, किचन बजट मुश्किल हो रहा है। सिलेंडर में पैसे बढ़ते जाते हैं हर महीने कभी कुछ कभी कुछ।
सभी पे दिक्कत है इसकी वजह से, पैसे बढ़ाने से। जब नॉर्मल था जब सही था सर, अब हर महीने पैसे बढ़ रहा है सर। तनख्वाह का कोई रूल नहीं है, पैसों का कीमतें घटानी चाहिए सर। हम जैसे गरीब आदमी कहाँ जाएंगे सर? 1000, 1200, 1500 12-15 हज़ार की नौकरी है सर, घर का खर्च भी है, फिर गैस भराएंगे, घर का खर्चा है, बाहर का खर्चा है सर, हर चीज़ है।
Situ's neighbor Neha is angry that oil companies continue to raise domestic LPG prices, seeming immune to the misery of poor households. She says oil companies must reduce domestic LPG prices as her family's meager income has made the price increase unsustainable.
सिलेंडर कम करा जाए, सस्ता करा जाए और जो सैलरी है वो बढ़ाई जाए, जो हम अपने बच्चों को पढ़ा सकें, किसी चीज़ में अपने बच्चों में वेस्ट जो पैसा हमारा इन चीज़ों में जा रहा है हम अपने बच्चों के साथ लगा सकें।
The third increase in domestic cooking gas in 2 months.
This is the fourth increase in the price of domestic LPG cylinder this year. On March 22nd, the price of an LPG cylinder was raised by 50 rupees. Then on May 7th, another 50 rupee increase in the price of domestic LPG cylinder was announced. And then on 19th May, the price of LPG cylinders were again raised by 3 rupees 50 paisa per cylinder. In this time of inflation, the rise in the prices of LPG cylinder is hurting the lower middle class and the poor households the most. And the poor families now want the oil companies to give relief to Aam Aadmi by considering a reduction in the LPG prices. In Ekta Vihar Colony with my colleague Xavier, Himanshu Shekhar for NDTV.
Welcome back. Well, let's get you a special story of a father-daughter fighter pilot duo that's made history for the Indian Air Force. Here's an inspiring story of this duo. Take a look.
Flying officer Ananya Sharma kitting up in her G-suit, helmet by her side. The man next to her is her father.
Ananya always used to say, "Papa, I want to be a fighter pilot like you." And after her commissioning, when for the first time she came as flying officer Ananya Sharma and saluted me, I was really proud.
They are among just a handful of serving father-daughter fighter pilots anywhere in the world. In this sortie together in a Hawk jet trainer, the two would fly together in formation.
As a child, I would often ask him why women fighter pilots are not there in the Indian Air Force, and he would tell me in his characteristic style that don't worry, you will be one.
The father-daughter duo are a highlight in what has been a successful process of inducting women fighter pilots in the Indian Air Force. In 2018, we interviewed Flying Officer Avni Chaturvedi, the first Indian woman to fly solo in a fighter jet. She first flew MiG-21s and is now flying Sukhoi 30s.
Training, I won't say difficult, but definitely challenging, because humans are not made to fly, right? We learn to fly. So it took approximately 1 year of flying training to become a flying officer, and even after that, it took 1 more year for me to come to a fighter cockpit.
India now has a woman Rafale pilot as well, Flight Lieutenant Shivangi Singh. For Flying Officer Ananya Singh, the sound of fighter jets was always inspiring.
Growing up, we were mostly always posted to fighter bases, so we would often hear the sound of jets flying over us. And knowing the fact that my father is flying one of them used to really inspire me.
And for her old man, getting a chance to fly alongside his daughter, a dream come true.
A few days back, both of us flew in the same formation on the Hawk aircraft. That was really the biggest day of my life.
The Indian Air Force prides itself as an equal opportunity force, the first among the Army, Air Force and Navy to have inducted women in a combat role. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Well, moving on, Bhagwant Mann, the Chief Minister of Punjab, will get married today in a small ceremony at his home in Chandigarh. Bhagwant Mann will marry Gurpreet Kaur. Only family and close relatives will be present at the wedding. Among those who are attending the wedding is Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal and also Raghav Chadha. In fact, my colleague Mohammad Ghazali spoke with Raghav Chadha over the wedding preps. Here's what he had to say.
One man who knows or who is handling everything, Mr. Raghav Chadha, the Rajya Sabha MP from Punjab. He's joining us right now. We'll speak to him about the arrangements and whether he knew this plan in advance. So, Mr. Chadha, all excited about Veeredi wedding?
Well, it's a big day for all of us. At the outset, let me convey my best wishes to the Honourable Chief Minister Mann Saab, my elder brother Bhagwant Mann Saab, and Dr. Gurpreet Kaur, both of whom have decided to get married. And after a fairly long amount of time, an occasion that merits such happiness and celebration has come in our family. And I must congratulate Mann Saab's mother, Bebe ji, Mann Saab's sister, and our would-be Parjai ji. And both the groom and the bride who are about to enter into a wedlock, I must convey my best wishes and also pray to God that both of them have a very, very happy and a blissful married life.
So we are being told that you are the one who has taken the charge of arrangement, and you perhaps knew this all in advance before everybody knew. So can you just share some details of the arrangement tomorrow, where it's all happening? It's the CM's residence or the Gurdwara?
Well, yes, I mean, of course we knew about it, and for the last couple of days we've been making all the arrangements for the ceremony. It's only a small wedding function which will be essentially a closed door function, which will have just close family. It'll be Mann Saab's family, Mann Saab's mother, Mann Saab's sister, Mann Saab's sisters, in-laws, and a few other family members. The bride's family members. Mr. Kejriwal is coming all the way from Delhi with his family to take part in this ceremony. Me and my mother. Just a handful of us will be, essentially be part of this wedding ceremony, and it's a small affair. And it may be a small affair, but it's a big reason for us to celebrate, and I am absolutely elated with joy.
So we are also being told that perhaps Dr. Gurpreet Kaur, the to-be bride, was associated with Aam Aadmi Party somewhere in campaign for Mr. Mann's campaign or something like that.
Well, I let the bride to speak to you. I'm pretty sure she'll be interacting with you at some point. Yes, she was actively participating in some of our campaigns. In fact, she had come to campaign for me in one of my elections.
So it's a long association with the party.
Well, yes and no, and I will let her speak to you about this. But I am personally extremely happy that she's becoming a part of our family, and I am about to become a devar, and she's about to become my bhabhi, and I welcome her into the family, and all of us are super happy about this, and we're eagerly looking forward to tomorrow's celebration.
You are going to be devar and all, but everybody's asking when you are going to follow the footsteps of your elder brother, as you mentioned in your tweet.
No, I mean, a lot of people have been asking me, but I will let you know certainly when and where and to whom I am planning to get married. And in traditional Indian families, it's the eldest in the house, in the family, who gets married first, and the younger ones follow. So once the elders are done with this, then of course the younger ones will also follow at some point soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks for this. So this was Rajya Sabha MP Mr. Raghav Chadha, who informed that the entire arrangement has been done here in Chandigarh only at his official residence. In Chandigarh, Mohammad Ghazali for NDTV.
Punjab de CM da vyah sanu gode cha. Yeah, this Punjabi wedding update needs a Punjabi video. All updates in just a minute. Punjab de CM Bhagwant Mann 7 July ਨੂੰ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਗੁਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਕੌਰ ਨਾਲ ਵਿਆਹ। ਲੇਕਿਨ ਅਨਲਾਈਕ ਅ ਟਿਪੀਕਲ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵੈਡਿੰਗ, ਇਸ ਵੈਡਿੰਗ 'ਚ ਪੂਰੀ ਭੀੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏਗੀ। ਗੈਸਟ ਲਿਸਟ ਕਾਫੀ ਲਿਮਿਟਡ ਹੈ। ਦਿੱਲੀ ਦੇ ਮੁੱਖ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਅਰਵਿੰਦ ਕੇਜਰੀਵਾਲ ਵੀ ਸ਼ਿਰਕਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿਆਹ ਅੱਜਕੱਲ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਉਸ ਟ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਮਿਕ ਟਰਨ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਮਾਨ ਅੱਗੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਹੀ ਵਿਲ ਮੈਰੀ ਐਟ ਹਿਸ ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਸ ਇਨ ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ। 48 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਮਾਨ ਨੇ 6 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਈਫ ਤੋਂ ਡਿਵੋਰਸ ਲਿਆ ਸੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ 2 ਬੱਚੇ ਜੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਓਥ ਸੈਰੇਮਨੀ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਆਏ ਸੀ, ਅਮਰੀਕਾ 'ਚ ਆਪਣੀ ਮਦਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇੱਕ ਜਰਨਲਿਸਟ ਨੇ ਟਵੀਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੇਇੰਗ ਐਂਡ ਵਨ ਥਾਟ ਦੈਟ ਰਾਘਵ ਚੱਡਾ ਵਾਸ ਦੀ ਮੋਸਟ ਐਲੀਜੀਬਲ ਬੈਚਲਰ ਇਨ ਆਪ, ਜਿਹਨੇ ਜਵਾਬ 'ਚ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਚੱਡਾ ਸੈਡ ਛੋਟੇ ਦਾ ਨੰਬਰ ਵੱਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਹੀ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ। And he gave his best wishes too. ਮੇਰੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਵੀ ਮਾਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ-ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ। ਰਿਕੁਐਸਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਭਾਜੀ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਭੇਜ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਵੇ। ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ।
In 1979, a 16-year-old started planting a tree sapling a day. Today, that 1 tree a day practice, he has single-handedly essentially created a forest that is sprawling over the size of 15 football fields. That truly is the power of one And the one in question here is Jadav Paeng, also called the Forest Man of India.
When we talk about environment, the very first thing which comes to our mind are forests. As a part of NDTV Detox Banega Swasth India campaign, we are here in district of Assam, Jorhat. Today we are going to meet Jadav Paeng and we will see what are his views on climate change.
This is how Jadav Paeng turned 550 acres of barren land into a lush green forest on the Brahmaputra with a wide variety of birds and animals, simply by planting trees. An agricultural scientist once told him, "Plant trees and they will take care of us." So when he saw his home, Majuli Island, turning into a desert, that's exactly what he decided to do. Over the course of several decades, the 59-year-old Padma Shri awardee has earned a reputation as the Forest Man of India, who speaks passionately about biodiversity, climate change and the environment in India and abroad, and is now helping NGOs in other countries plant trees and create forests too.
2012 से आज तक 10 years में अवेयरनेस हुआ। ये नहीं इंडिया में कर रहा है, ऐसे ही नहीं ऑल ओवर वर्ल्ड कर रहा है। इसके लिए आजकल जितनी भी कर रहा है, क्लाइमेट चेंज तो ज़्यादा होता है। हम लोग जिंदे रहेगा कि नहीं रहेगा, हम लोग का गलती से नया ज़रा बचपनों लोग का वो लोग का खतरनाक है। मेरे को अच्छे लगने ज़रूरत नहीं है, तो धोती को अच्छे लगने के वो लोग का सिखाने मेरा काम है, इसके लिए कर रहा है।
Jadav Mulai Paeng's forest has been named Mulai Forest after him, and visitors and environmentalists travel from across the world to see it. There is a lesson amongst this dense lush greenery for the whole world.
We see that the climate is changing and the forests are disappearing all around the world. And the forest is the first source of terrestrial biodiversity. They use it as medicines, they use it for the wood, of course, for timber. The population all around the world is increasing. So there is more pressure on the forest now.
Jadav Paeng says children must be taught to plant saplings or seeds when they are in school, and also how to take care for it in the 5 years that it takes for that sapling to grow into a tree. This is the only way humans will realize that honoring nature is key to our own survival.
पेड़ पौधा लगा के हम लोग धरती माँ को ग्रीन करने पर, तब तक हम लोग जिंदे रहेगा, नहीं तो नहीं रहेगा।
The crisis is complex, but the solutions can be quite simple. And as the forest man himself has shown, the simplest idea can also create the most effective kind of change.
Two union ministers have handed in their resignations. Mukhtar Abbas, Naqvi and RCP Singh of the JDU resigned from the union cabinet. Their portfolios have now been reallocated to Jyotiraditya, Scindia and Smriti Irani.
Nupur Sharma denigrated the Prophet and I celebrated Kali, says Mahua Moitra as she speaks to NDTV amid the Kali row. The TMC meanwhile condemns the comments. BJP files an FIR.
AIADMK leadership tussle is being fought in the courts now. The Madras High Court to hear O. Paneerselvam's plea against the meeting called by the EPS camp. This after the Supreme Court yesterday gave a leg up to EPS.
RBI has announced measures to boost foreign inflows in an attempt to arrest the rupee's fall.
And what a quarter-final it was. Nadal overcame a tough challenge from the American Taylor Fritz to enter the semi-finals. The Titanic quarter-final at the centre court lasted beyond 4 hours. Well, breaking news that's coming in on the broadcast. There's now a rain red alert, Parmeshwar, that's been sounded for the coastal districts in Karnataka.
The IMD has sounded a red alert for all coastal districts in Karnataka, and they've also said that extremely heavy rains in the coastal districts for the next 2 days are on the charts. The rains have been predicted ranging above 204 mm in Dakshina Kannada district, Rishika, and owing to continuous rain, several educational institutions in Karnataka have declared a holiday today.
All right. Well, Shrija joins us with the very latest. So, Shrija, the good old rainy holiday in several parts of Karnataka amid this rain red alert. I have to say, sitting in Delhi, we're all a bit envious.
Well, unfortunately, we cannot really say good rains because this is something where we are looking at heavy rains to very heavy rainfall, especially in coastal part of Karnataka, because several of the districts, for example, Kodagu district, Dakshin Kannada district, Mangaluru. Now, these are some of the districts that have reported especially flood-like situation. And several of the arterial roads, the main link roads, have been completely cut off, especially for commuters where they cannot reach to their main destinations. And also as a precautionary measure, various district in charge officials have also asked especially various schools and colleges to declare holidays, and especially to Anganwadi schools as well. Some of them especially include in Udupi and Mangaluru districts as well. And just like how IMD has predicted, now the heavy rainfall is predicted around coastal districts of Karnataka till tomorrow. And in terms of the damage is also being assessed as far as the officials, the district officials are concerned, because several of the houses have also been damaged. That's the report that's also been gathered right now at the moment, as most of the people have also been moved to the safety at the moment, and precautionary measures and also advisories especially have been issued to fishermen not to venture into seas at the moment.
Well, thanks, Shrija, for joining us with the very latest rain red alert for several parts of Karnataka there. As Shrija saying, the rainy holiday, Parmeshwar, not really good news after all.
But another big news, Rishika, the RBI has announced measures to boost foreign inflows in an attempt to arrest the rupee's fall. Now, companies' annual overseas borrowing limit has been doubled to $1.5 billion.
Well, banks can essentially raise the NRI deposits now without any current interest rates caps, and foreign investment norms have been eased in government and corporate debt.
Now, the Uddhav Thackeray faction of the Shiv Sena, reduced to a minority in the Maharashtra Assembly, has appointed a new chief whip for the Lok Sabha, fearing revolt by party MPs. Senior party leader Sanjay Raut wrote a letter to the Lok Sabha speaker last evening and informed him that Rajan Vichare has been appointed the chief whip, replacing Bhavna Gauli.
Well, this is a very interesting development because the Shiv Sena is essentially fearing that the revolt may now spread from the Maharashtra Assembly, where an embattled Uddhav Thackeray faction has lost majority and face. And it could essentially spread now to the Lok Sabha. MPs could revolt, MPs could, join the Shinde faction, or Parmeshwar, like we've been reporting, MPs have written to Uddhav Thackeray to support the NDA presidential candidate. So the Uddhav Thackeray faction is clearly also fearing at the moment that, MPs could in fact cross vote in the upcoming presidential elections.
And the other big story, the Union Health Ministry has reduced the gap between the second COVID vaccine dose and the booster shot. Now you can take the booster dose 6 months after your second vaccine shot instead of 9 months.
Well, this is significant, and this decision is essentially, Parmeshwar, once again, many are looking at this as a knee-jerk reaction because it's coming in at a time when active cases have risen every single day for the last 44 days. There are about 1.15 lakh active cases in India right now, which is the highest since the end of February. And while in good news, over 90% of India's eligible population, which is now 12 years and older, is vaccinated, boosters have been given so far to only 5% of Indians. This also begs the million-dollar question. Now, if the booster gap has been reduced to 6 months, what about those frontline workers, healthcare workers, as well as the elderly who actually got their boosters 6 months ago? Are they now going to be eligible for a fourth vaccine in the foreseeable future? All of those questions still remain unanswered.
Valid concerns indeed, Rishika. But switching tracks to the other big story, after 3 flight safety incidents in a matter of just 24 hours, the aviation regulator has taken tough action against SpiceJet, issuing a show cause notice, in fact, and asking it to explain how it is a safe airline to fly.
Well, absolutely. It's not just SpiceJet, though, to be fair. There are other leading airlines like Vistara and Indigo that also had some separate unrelated safety incidents that were reported yesterday. Now, given the volume of air travel in India, there are approximately 30 such incidents that take place on a daily basis. This is what the Director General of Civil Aviation has said. However, none of these incidents really make the headlines because they're very minor incidents that take place and don't really pose a safety risk. So if you're watching this news and it's making you nervous as a frequent flyer, you must listen in to Vishnu's full report.
Lots of important tough action against SpiceJet, in fact, with the aviation regulator issuing it a show cause notice and asking it to explain how it is a safe airline to fly. Now, as we bring you the details of that notice, that show cause notice, it is important to note that other leading airlines, including Vistara and Indigo, have had separate unrelated safety incidents today. Given the volume of air travel in India, there are approximately 30 such incidents daily. But first, details of the show cause notice to SpiceJet. Now, the regulator, in the note that you see, says that SpiceJet failed to establish safe, efficient and reliable air services. The airline continued to operate flights with degraded safety margins. In other words, higher safety standards should perhaps have been maintained. The regulator has questions on poor internal oversight in the airline and says that there are inadequate maintenance actions. What's more, most incidents are related to component failure or system-related failure, and that approved vendors who provide components are not being paid on time, and that there's a shortage of spares. But in addition to 3 SpiceJet incidents yesterday, there were 2 other ones, this time involving Indigo and Vistara, and that's important. The crew of an Indigo A320 aircraft from Raipur to Indore reported smoke in the cabin during taxiing after landing, and a Vistara aircraft which landed in Delhi from Bangkok had an electrical malfunction which caused an engine snag after it landed. Now, in a statement to NDTV, the Director General of Civil Aviation, the aviation watchdog in India, has said on an average about 30 incidents do take place daily, which includes go-arounds, missed approaches, diversions, medical emergencies, weather issues, technical issues, bird hits, etc. Most of them have no safety implications. Well, the Civil Aviation Minister has also tweeted. Let's just take a quick look at what Jyotiraditya Scindia has actually said. He says, passenger safety is paramount. Even the smallest error hindering safety will be thoroughly investigated and course corrected. Remember, aviation is, in India, civil aviation, one of the largest anywhere in the world.
Meanwhile, Rishika, the SpiceJet boss Ajay Singh actually defended the airline in an exclusive conversation with NDTV. Listen in.
In the show cause notice says that, you are financially cash strapped, and this is a fact. I mean, the airline is in a difficult situation. It also says that you're operating on cash and carry, and suppliers and approved vendors are not being paid on a regular basis, leading to a shortage of spares and frequent invoking of MELs or minimum equipment lists.
Again, let me say, Vishnu, we will absolutely prove to DGCA that none, of course, every airline in the world is in financial difficulty at this time. But this has absolutely no bearing, and no airline would ever compromise on safety as a consequence of that.
Lalu Prasad Yadav, the president of the Rashtriya Janata Dal, was shifted to Delhi's AIIMS hospital days after he fractured his right shoulder. Now, the 74-year-old was brought from Patna in an air ambulance. He was accompanied by a team of doctors and his eldest daughter, Misa Bharti.
Well, Lalu Prasad Yadav, remember, is out on bail in a fodder scam case, and he's been suffering from multiple ailments, including renal and cardiac problems. He's also a diabetes patient. And last Sunday, Parmeshwar, what we're reporting essentially is that he had a bad fall in his house, after which, of course, he's fractured. He's had some fractures. He was at a hospital in Patna. But for obvious reasons, I think, given age, etc., he's now been shifted as a precautionary measure to AIIMS. However, the family says that he's doing all right. And with that, we're going to slip into a very short break. But coming up on the other side, Parmeshwar, Bhagwant Mann is getting married. What do you know about that?
Well, our reporters are on the ground. They're back at the Chief Minister's residence. In fact, we get you all the juicy details right after this very short break.